The fate of Daeron the Daring. A silken pavilion burns in the dark. A boy of 15 stumbles out, his nightclothes wreathed in flame. Then the chronicles fracture. One says a morningstar smashed his face. One says a stranger's sword. One says he never left the tent at all. 3 deaths for one prince, and a body that was never found. Welcome to Westeros Within, where we journey into forgotten ages, hidden legends, and ancient mysteries. This is Mysteries of the Realm. Episode 18. 3 deaths, 1 prince. How did Daeron really die? Let us be sure of who we are burying. Daeron Targaryen was the 3rd and youngest son of King Viserys I and Queen Alicent of House Hightower. Full brother to King Aegon II, to Aemond, to Helaena. Born late in the year 114, which made him no more than 15 or 16 when the fire took him. He was no soft prince. At 12, he was sent to Oldtown to squire for Lord Ormond Hightower, his mother's kin. And when the dance of the dragons set the realm alight, Daeron rode to war on Tessarion, the Blue Queen, a young she-dragon of deep cobalt scales and copper wings. At the Battle of the Honeywine, with Lord Ormond's host near broken, Daeron fell from the sky on Tessarion and turned defeat into a rout. Ormond knighted him on the field with the Valyrian sword Vigilance. The boy earned a name that day, Daeron the Daring. He marched with the Hightower army to Tumbleton. They took it. The 2 dragon seeds, Ulf White and Hugh Hammer, turned their cloaks and joined the Greens, the 2 betrayers, and the town was sacked with horror. And then, in the dead of night, the Blacks struck back. Adam Valerian came down on sea smoke and set the Green camp ablaze. This was the Second Battle of Tumbleton. And somewhere in that burning camp, Daeron the Daring died. Or so we believe. Because here is the strange thing. The most faithful account we have, Fire and Blood, drawn from the chroniclers of the age, does not tell us how he died. It tells us 3 times, and the 3 tales cannot all be true. So tonight, the question is this: how did Daeron the Daring truly die? And can we even be certain that he did? Let us walk through the fire together. The first account is the loudest. As sea smoke's flame caught the silken pavilions, the prince stumbled from his tent, his nightclothes afire, only to be cut down by a Myrish sellsword named Black Trombo, who smashed his face in with a swing of his spiked morningstar. It is a vivid, brutal image. And perhaps that is exactly the problem. Black Trombo was a sellsword. And a sellsword who had killed a Targaryen prince would have every reason to say so, loudly, for the rest of his days. A famous kill is a sellsword's fortune. So we must ask whether this tale survives because it is true, or because a Myrish hireling shouted it across every tavern from here to Essos. The second account keeps the burning tent and the stumbling boy, but changes the hand that killed him. In this telling, the prince was killed not with a morningstar, but with a sword, and his slayer was not Black Trombo, but some unknown man-at-arms who did not realize whom he had slain. Now, consider what favors this version. The battle began as a surprise attack in the dark. The camp was smoke and panic and screaming, and Daeron, at that final moment, carried none of the things that made him a prince. No armor, no heraldry, not Tessarion above him. Only a boy of 15 in his nightclothes, on fire, fleeing a tent. In that darkness, who would know him? A man-at-arms swinging at a burning figure would strike and move on, and never learn that he had killed Daeron the Daring. And this is the version that quietly explains the deepest fact of all, that the body was never found. If the killer did not know whom he had killed, no one secured the corpse. No one claimed it. No one marked the place. The prince simply vanished into the dead. But here we must be honest about something. Some have read this second account as a hero's death. Daeron with a sword in hand, standing his ground, falling in open battle. The evidence does not support that. True, Fire and Blood does name a sword. True, Daeron was a blooded, knighted warrior who bore a Valyrian blade, and a man roused by a night attack reaches for steel. The picture of the daring prince dying on his feet, resisting, is a tempting one. But look closely at what the text actually says. The sword account shares the very same scene as the morningstar account. The prince stumbling from his pavilion in his nightclothes, a fire. It is not a knight rallying his men. It is a burning boy cut down as he flees. The weapon changed. The helplessness did not. No source describes Daeron swinging vigilance. No source shows him trading blows. The sword in this story belongs to his killer, not to him. And so we come to the third account, the quietest one, and, perhaps, the truest. This version says that the brave boy known as Daeron the Daring did not even make it out at all, but died when his burning pavilion collapsed upon him. No sellsword, no man-at-arms, no flight through the camp. He was asleep when the fire came, and the fire took him where he lay. This is the version preferred by Munkun's true telling, the closest thing the age has to an official history, and by the chronicler Gyldayn himself. And it carries weight for good reason. When the two most trusted authorities in all the saga land independently on the same account, that agreement is the strongest evidence the chronicles can offer. The mechanism fits the night. A boy asleep in a silk tent, suddenly drowned in dragon fire, is far more plausibly trapped than cleanly escaping a camp full of flame and steel. And above all, it explains the missing body better than any rival. A corpse burned beneath a collapsed, fire-eaten pavilion would be unrecognizable, or simply gone. While the other two versions, if you think on them, create a problem. If Daeron fell in the open, slain by Trombo or by a stranger, then there should have been a body in the open to find. There was not. And yet, I will not let even Gyldayn off so easily, because his preference is a judgment, not a witness. Fire and Blood is clear that the manner of this death is genuinely beyond knowing. And historians have a habit of favoring the tidy, quiet account precisely because it cannot be challenged. A boy who burned alone in his tent leaves no awkward witnesses to contradict. There is also this. A burning camp drowned in dragon fire would render any of the three deaths unrecognizable. Daeron cut down outside his tent would burn just as completely as Daeron crushed inside it. So the missing body, which seems to crown the tent collapse theory, in truth, it fits all three. It proves none. Which brings us to the darkest possibility of all. What if he did not die that night? It sounds like fancy, but hold the thought, because the realm itself once held it. The three accounts do not merely disagree on detail. They disagree on everything that matters. The weapon, the killer, the place. When the only witnesses contradict each other this completely, the honest position is that no one truly saw Daeron the Daring die. His body was never identified. He was a boy of 15, separated from his dragon at the moment of attack, who could plausibly have fled a dark and burning camp like any other terrified soul. And in the years that followed, during the reign of King Aegon III, men rose, more than one, claiming to be the surviving Prince Daeron. Pretenders do not flourish where a death is certain. They flourish in the gap. And clearly, the people of that age felt the gap was real. But before we let the boy live, we must hear the case against. First, the pretenders were all exposed. Hermeister Yandel, every man who claimed to be Daeron during Aegon III's reign was conclusively proven an impostor. That pretenders existed proves there was doubt. That they were unmasked is itself the canon answer to that doubt. Second, and this is the one that silences me, Tessarion. When her rider died, the Blue Queen did not slip quietly from the sky. She took to the air, shrieking and spitting flame. She fought sea smoke in a duel that watchers said looked more like a mating dance than a battle, vanishing into the clouds and reappearing behind him. When riderless Vermithor rose, all three dragons tore at one another until Sea Smoke and Vermithor lay dead, and Adam Velaryon with them. Tessarion was the last to fall. Grievously wounded, she lingered through the night and into the next day, dying slowly, in pain. And by the command of Lord Benjicot Blackwood, the archer Billy Burley put 3 arrows through her eye and ended her. A dragon does not go berserk with grief for a rider who has simply walked away alive. Tessarion's fury, her refusal to leave that field, her long and agonized death, that is the behavior of a dragon whose bond was broken by death, not by escape. The Blue Queen mourned. And in her mourning, I think, she tells us the truth that the chroniclers could not. So what do I believe? I believe Daeron the Daring died at Tumbleton that night. The pretenders were false. Tessarion's grief is too real, too total, to be the mourning of a dragon whose boy still drew breath. He did not survive. And as for how, I find myself standing with Gyldain, though not for the reasons he gives. Not because the true telling endorses it, but because the loud accounts feel like the kind of stories men tell afterward. The boasting sellsword, the heroic last stand the boy never made. The quiet account asks nothing of us. A child asleep, a tent of silk, a dragon's fire in the dark, and in the morning, only ash where a prince had been. I think Daeron the Daring never woke. I think the fire took him gently before he ever understood it had come. It is the smallest of the 3 deaths. And I suspect that is exactly why it is true. So tell me this. If a prince's own chroniclers cannot agree on how he died, can we ever truly say we know? Write it in the comments. I read every theory. And if you want to be here when we unravel the next mystery, subscribe to Westeros Within and join me for the next chapter.